Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast stronger than animanium and vibranium. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with my friend Kyrun Silva. Kyrun, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun, I hope.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a great time. All right, so this is the first, we've been friends online for a little while, but this is the first time we've ever got to actually talk, quote unquote, face to face. So, I like to start things off with an icebreaker question.
Okay.
And the question today is if you could have one superpower, which power would you choose?
Wow. Um, I mean, I guess it depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm still trying to be a comic creator,
Mm,
drawing, I would do super speed.
okay.
Bust out pages really quickly, things like that. If
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to be a superhero, and it sounds lame, but the idea of flying seems like it could be very beneficial. I could, fly supplies to other countries. I could fly around my city, protect them. I mean, I have martial arts background, so hopefully I could use that with it. But depending on what I'm going to use it for, I think it's either got to be super speed or flying.
And really, if you could combine those both together, shipping out books would be a heck of a lot cheaper, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just buy some protein bars, and that'll be good to go.
Like same day shipping, you're all good. It's all done.
Yeah.
I think for me, my power, and I say this every time and people think it's the dumbest thing, but my power would be ice power. I don't really have a reason why. I just since I was a kid, one of my favorite heroes was Iceman. I just think
Okay.
it's really cool that having the ice power is super cool. I
Yeah.
really don't have any other reason than it's cool. I just think the ice power is awesome. So
Now, are you a drinker? Like,
um very, very, very occasionally.
okay, so your power would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Just throw a couple ice cubes in there. You're good to go.
Just make the ice cubes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I can see ice power being very beneficial in other things too. In the summertime, if it's hot, um,
Yeah.
you could, cool yourself down. You could make ice sculptures for a living. I've actually heard ice sculpture people make a good living doing that.
That'd be pretty dope. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, usually it'd be good here. We haven't really hit the real uh the real high temperatures for summer just yet. We've still been pretty chill here.
Okay.
Um, not quite like it is probably in California. I'm sure it's pretty warm there.
Actually, where I'm at, it's still pretty cool. We're still in the high 70s right now.
Okay, that's about what I am too.
Yeah, we probably won't hit the hundreds until July. And
Mm,
then
yeah,
about in July, August, we're going to be like 110, 112, somewhere around there, almost every other day.
yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I always know it's going to be a hot day when by 7 o'clock my air conditioning started. Like,
Oh
okay, yeah.
man.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
when I wake up and my air conditioning's kicked in and I can hear the humming of it, I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, today's going to be a hot day for sure.
yeah. If I wake up and my thermostat says 74 in my house already at 7 a.m., I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a good one today.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so Fueled by Weird, it's a concept where basically everyone has stuff they're into and hobbies, interests, all that stuff. They're not necessarily nerdy hobbies or just, anything you have an interest in. That's the kind of stuff that fuels your weird and fuels who you are. So what are some of the things that fuel your weird?
um Comic books, anime, cartoons, wrestling, video games. Um, I used to be into tabletop card games like Magic and
Oh yeah,
Pokemon, but
me
I
too.
I grew out of that after high school a bit. But I mean, honestly, my biggest weird thing is just comic books. It's been my obsession since I was 10, 11, somewhere around there. And it's just been my main focus almost every year of my life, outside my family, of course, but
Yeah.
outside of there was a 3 year gap when I was about 20 where I actually trained to be a professional wrestler.
Oh, nice.
And outside that 3 year gap, it's just been comic books every day.
Nice. I forgot you're a wrestling fan like myself. So we're definitely
Yes.
gonna have to figure out a different day to chat all things wrestling for sure.
Okay.
Um,
Definitely.
yeah. So speaking about, you've done comics pretty much since you were a kid. What was it about comics that inspired you to get into comics in the first place?
I mean, there's something about comics that unlike a book, you can see what the author was trying to portray to you. Like you know, you notice a lot of times with like the Hunger Games and Harry Potter, when those movies came out, and it was the director's vision of the author's books. People, you had those group of people say, "Oh, well, that's not how it's supposed to be because in the book you had the da 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 da." But you
Yeah,
don't get that in comic books. You actually see exactly what the writer and the artist work together to meld to create an image of. So there's no, well, there really shouldn't be any, oh, well, the person should be like this or they should look like this. It's like, no, this is what they wanted. They agreed on this. And
yeah,
that idea of seeing it come to life in not just word form, but seeing the imagery there, it just drew me in. And then comic books are, there's such a wide range of what a comic can be. You have your superhero stuff like, X-Men and Spider-Man, all that good stuff. But then you also have things like The Walking Dead or even Ninja Turtles, which is not necessarily superhero. It's
yeah,
crime fighting, yeah, but there's still something else different in that genre. So, and then you can even get into adult type comics. I mean, there's such a wide range of what a comic can be. I just love every aspect of it.
yeah. That makes sense. And yeah, Ninja Turtles aren't necessarily superhero, but they kind of are superhero-esque. So I
Yeah,
still think that counts still.
yeah. I always linked it more of like it's a martial arts comic book. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, they're trying to save the city, but it's more they're just trying to protect their own ass from Shredder or
Yeah,
Cry or whoever else is trying to attack them. They're not, they fight crime, but it's more of, oh yeah, we just happen to be in this area and there's a bad guy there. Let's beat him up real quick.
yeah, that makes sense. And so you have a lot of different comic book titles: Shaman's Destiny, Ruby from Planet Oz, Starcore, Xob the Lightning Wielder. Um, how do you come up with all of your ideas?
I steal it from other people.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I mean every comic book I made has a different story. Like Shaman's Destiny was just my trial of trying to make a comic. It was just one day I was just doodling, and my wife was like, "Why don't you make a comic? You've always said you want to do it. Just make one." And I didn't have a full idea of what I wanted to make a comic, but I had this cool sketch of a mystical character. I was
Yeah,
like, "All right, I'll just make it to a comic." And I did 6 issues of that, and every issue was just whatever weird idea I could think of to put in that issue. I didn't plot it out properly. I didn't script it out well. It was just okay. I want to do this for this page. I'm going to do it. Saw the Lightning Wielder. It came from my wanting to portray my wife's heritage and her culture, because she's Southeast Asian, Hmong, and when people say Asian, they think of Chinese and Japanese, and some people might think of Thai or Korean, but there's so many other cultures in Asia that nobody knows about. There's so many
yeah,
other religions and beliefs in this area that no one really knows about. And I was like, I want to portray something in a positive way that can maybe showcase your culture. And she's hesitant at first. I mean, she still doesn't like it, even though it's my best-selling comic so far. But she still doesn't like the idea of me putting stuff out there just because she doesn't want me to mess it up more than anything. But I try to do my best. I show her what I make and I get her approval or I get a family member's approval and then I put it out there. Ruby from Planet Oz was just, I wanted to do a sci-fi Wizard of Oz for just the longest time because that story just seems like it could be a sci-fi story just very easily. I mean, it takes place in another world. You have weird creatures. You have this protagonist that's just trying to find her way through it. And I was like, these just seems like so many elements of sci-fi that I could just put together so quickly. And then Starcore was just, that was my love of Darkhawk, the Marvel comic series from the 90s.
mm,
I've owned every issue that Darkhawk was in since the beginning. And I've always wanted to write a story. And I didn't think I'd be able to get that. So I was like, I'm gonna make my own Darkhawk story, call it Starcore, and I'm everything I've wanted Darkhawk to do, I'm gonna put it into the story and run with it.
that works. It's always nice to, if you see it, one of your favorite characters, like, I wonder if, what it would be like if they did this, or I wonder what it'd be like if they did that. And to kind of put that into your own story, that really works. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about, the difference between comic books and novels and stuff like that. And it's interesting how you said how you said where, with comic books, this is exactly how the person or the character is supposed to look as opposed to a novel. Because that's always been an opinion of mine where, in a novel, it kind of leaves things open to interpretation where, like for example, like your example, Harry Potter, a lot of people were upset how certain characters looked because it wasn't the same mind canon that they had. So it's like, this is what the author was intending for them to look like. Yes, it may be different or it may go along with what you thought, but you just kind of have to accept it because that's how the creator wanted it to look. And that's kind of how I've been with my writing personally is, I'll write with these characters that, you know, I have a certain way that I want them to look, but I leave it up in interpretation for how, you want it to be, just so you can have your own head canon. But more recently, because I've kind of been trying to jump into the world of comics kind of um with some of my characters. Now I've been starting to kind of determine what they look like specifically so I can be like, hey, I'm talking about this character, this is what they look like. Are they cool? Do you like them? So I kind of that's interesting. I've never really had anyone else kind of have the same mindset. So that's really cool.
That we're the same person. I already know it. We're the exact same person.
Nice. All right. So speaking of Saw the Lightning Wielder, and you can definitely tell you put a lot of work into that one because I just reread the first three issues recently just so I could be up to speed. You definitely put a lot of effort in to represent the Hmong culture very well, I think. Um, and that's really cool that you put all the effort in to make sure that it's still, true to form and it's accurate. You have a Kickstarter for number 4 coming up pretty soon.
Yep.
In the last issue, spoiler alert, Xob or not Xob, Saw, I'm reading this and I know it's said differently, but I still
Yeah, I get
anyway.
it too.
Saw defeats the bad guy. She has a better understanding of how her powers work. We've got the rise of a new big bad. Um, where does issue 4 pick up? Does it pick up right where number 3 left off? Does it pick up somewhere else completely different?
So it picks off about a couple weeks after issue 3 does.
Okay.
Saw sort of accepted her what's happened with issue 3, the devastation that occurred with her city, the deaths that occurred to her personally, and she's now just working through that pain. And we're getting to an arc where we're going to figure out what the world sees Saw as. Does she see her as a savior, or do we see her more as someone that brings more issues to their city, their world than what she's worth? With the new big bad guy, his name is Barricade. He's this giant mech robot guy who can't be moved, he can't be stopped, he's like impenetrable. But he's there for a specific reason. Someone's hired him, and we find out who this person is, why they hired her, and this leads to Saw thinking, what am I doing? Am I doing this right as a superhero? And then there's going to be a lot of conflict that issues 4, 5, and 6 we get into as far as how the city now deals with all the devastation that she's bringing to their world. And we're going to still sprinkle in a lot of their culture in there, but issue 4 and 5 is going to be more of a reflection of what the city sees Saw as, if they feel like she's worth it or not.
Awesome. Um, so what else can you tell us about it? Like when is it? Is it coming soon? Um, what else do you have?
Um, the Kickstarter, the Kickstarter just got approved yesterday,
Okay.
and now I'm trying to figure out if I want to spend the next week or so just launching it and prepping it, or do I want to spend more time to be just getting hype up around it. Because Kickstarters are weird. Kickstarters are I don't know if you ever run one, but Kickstarters are
I
almost
haven't.
like a full-time job. We're doing podcasts and marketing. It's another job in itself. Like a friend of mine, his name is Fish Lee, he just ran his Kickstarter, and he said he was doing a podcast 3 times a week during a Kickstarter just to get the word out. And I was like, yeah, that's about what I do when I run a Kickstarter. It's about 3 to 4 podcasts a week I'm
Yeah,
on just to get the word out about it. And I don't know if I'm ready for that mentally
sure.
right now.
Yeah,
It's a process. But at the very least, I'm gonna launch it in July. If I don't launch it within the next 2 weeks or so, I will launch it in July for sure.
yeah.
I just want to make sure I have everything in place. I have all my I's dotted, my T's crossed, things like that. And I have a couple more rewards I'm working on that I want to see if I can hammer down the details on it before I put it out there.
That's cool. Yeah, we actually had Fish on talking about his Kickstarter, a couple episodes ago, and yeah, he's putting in the work on that one.
Yeah.
It really worked out well. But yeah, I've never personally run a Kickstarter myself, but before the call, we were talking about how, I've, the two of us have a lot of friends in common, and there's Kickstarter seem like launching all the time.
Yeah.
You're always, trying to push your friends' links and support your friends and share out their links for their stuff. And that alone is exhausting
Yes.
sometimes, let alone trying to, be behind your own and put everything together, stretch out all your different avenues and all the different places you can advertise and, get your stuff, all the different eyes you can get in front of your stuff.
Yeah.
Um, what do you have planned as far as the Kickstarter goes? Do you have um you said you were talking about a couple of rewards. Do you have anything that you can talk about right now?
Well, we're gonna have the option of buying issues 1 through 4. We're gonna have stickers, t-shirts available. There's gonna be an option to buy alternate covers because there's gonna be 3 different covers available. The first one was the primary Kickstarter cover is done by Nicholas Garza. He's a comic creator out of California. But I had a contest that I ran last year called the Saw Comic Cover Contest, and whoever won the contest got $250 plus they got to be the primary cover for the Kickstarter. So
Nice.
you can have that as an option. There's also a cover done by Melissa Paglica. She's a creator here in California. And a couple years ago, she created a book called Above the Clouds. And if you've never read this book, I highly recommend you to go out and get it. It was
Okay.
honestly in 2021, I think is when it came out. It was my favorite book of the year. Is beautifully
Oh wow.
illustrated, amazing story. I mean, it's weird to say this, but I actually have her book hanging in my office on my shelf. Like, so when you walk into my house, you go into my office, it's on my shelf, and it's the only comic book there because it's that good of a book.
Oh wow.
So if definitely go out and check it out. But
For
she
sure.
did another cover with fantastic work on it. And then the third cover is done by Fishley, the guy we just talked about a couple of times.
Yeah.
Um, and he did a homage cover to the Ultimates #1. And in it, I don't know if you remember Ultimates #1, but it's a
Mhm.
picture of Captain America and Iron Man and God, was it Giant Man? I can't remember everybody that was there, but they're just standing on the cover in this cool pose with the sunlight behind them, so they're sort of in shadow. I have fished. I said, "Hey, I want to do this homage cover because I'm introducing a new superhero team into issue 4 called the Freedom Strike Force or Freedom Strike Killers," and I wanted to have them as a on the cover featuring them so people could say, well, who are these people? And it's like, okay, well, if you're interested in these guys, they're going to be a part of this book of Saw issue 4 and other books in the Taurus Comics universe of books. um and they're mercenaries. They are they want to do good. They're a superhero team that they want to do good, but they want to do good for money. They want to get paid.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of, well, I'm getting paid to do my job and only my job. Does that person need to be saved? Yeah, but I'm not getting paid to do that. I'm getting paid to fight that bad guy. So you guys got to figure it out while we do what we're getting paid for. That's this type of mentality that this group has.
Like a heroes
Um,
for hire kind of thing.
yep,
Okay.
exactly. So that's another option to get that cover. There's an option to buy a sketch cover by me if you want to maybe have some artwork of Saw. There's going to be sketch cards available also by me. There's going to be one of the things I'm working on that I need to really figure out is a 3D print figure of
Okay.
Saw.
Nice.
I've been talking with some people and trying to figure out logistically how can I afford that, how much I would need to charge somebody for a reward for that. So that's another thing. And then you're going to get, what else is there? Oh man, I want to say there's another thing, and I can't remember off the top of my head right now what it is.
Fair enough.
It's one of those things where with Kickstarters, we always have so many ideas of
Yeah.
what we want in the Kickstarter, and we struggle figuring out what what's going to sell, what's going to attract somebody. I mean, we know
Sure.
the book is going to attract people. We understand that, but it's
Yeah.
always the little things that we don't know. Like we never know if people are going to want a shirt. We never know if people are going to want a giant poster.
Mm,
So oh, that's what it was. There's a mini print done by Michael
okay.
Watson, Freestyle Comics.
Oh, awesome.
There's going to be that. There's also going to be an option for you to be drawn in the book. That was the other thing.
Nice.
So there's going to be couples, and that the being drawn in the book. There's only 3 spots available for that. But you'll be drawn as a background character in the book, and that has actually been really good. The last few times I've done it, I've gotten a couple people want to do that. So that one I think is going to be stable. I probably put in all my Kickstarters going forward.
Nice. Well, after this next sock Kickstarter, what else do you have planned? I know you kind of mentioned a little bit of your new team that's coming. Do you have anything else you weren't ready to talk about?
After Saw, it's going to be Starcore issue 2
Oh,
from me.
nice.
That's
Awesome.
going to be Starcore issue 2.
Right on.
I'm already working with Marcos on the pages for that. Um, it's hard because on top of that, I'm also working on other books for other people.
Yeah.
Like I'm drawing. Well, actually, right now I'm inking the pages for the Ballad of the Black Rose from Fourth Wall Productions.
I'm so excited for that one.
Yeah, that was weird because Danny had me draw that out. I finished that out January. I finished like all the pages out,
Okay.
and he was gonna have somebody else ink it. And then about March, he's like, "Hey, do you think you can ink it too?" My inker sort of dropped out. And I was like, "I got some other commissions, but I can try to fit you in." So right now, I'm on pace to have the inks done by the end of this month.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it's gonna be 31 pages for that, and then after that, I'll be working on I Drive for Server from Instinct Comics issue 2 for that.
Oh, nice.
So there's going to be different things coming from me that aren't necessarily tourist comics related for this year.
Nice. Well, I know I'm excited for Starcore. You left that last one on a heck of a cliffhanger, so I'm real excited for the next one.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I did. I Starcore honestly is my favorite character out of everything I've created.
Yeah,
It's like I said, it's my homage to Darkhawk. It's my homage to 90s style book. And I have so many cool ideas that I am excited to get into the rest of the tourist comics universe. Starcore is going to be the book that connects everybody together.
oh,
Because
nice.
people ask me, is like, hey, are Shaman's Destiny and Saw and Ruby, are they all separate worlds? And I've never put them together. When I started creating Starcore, I was like, I have something here, idea wise, that I can connect everything
Oh,
in this
nice.
universe and have something for all of them to fight. So that's the long term goal for Starcore.
That's awesome. And it's always nice when you can get a character that is kind of universal and you can find a way to easily kind of tie everybody together. It's
Yeah.
really hard, especially if you have, you have your sci-fi character and you have your just, standard on Earth character or whatever. And it's hard to kind of find a way to bring them together. So that's cool that you have a character that'll tie all the parts together. That's awesome. I'm looking
Yeah.
very forward to that.
The hard part is right now is like you said, because we had the sci-fi characters out there in space, which is Ruby from Planet Oz.
Yeah.
I haven't finished that series. Just because I've been so busy with other people's works, I
Yeah.
haven't been able to come back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need to get through all 6 issues of that book before I can actually get this crossover together because the
Ah,
way I have them it plotted out, the ending of that is going to tie directly into what brings them all together.
gotcha.
So I'm gonna, if I can find some time, I'm gonna get back into Ruby eventually. It's just people keep wanting me to draw their books, and that sounds conceited when I say it out loud like that, but it's the truth. Everybody wants me to draw their books, and I just haven't had time.
I mean, it makes sense. You're a very talented artist. Like
Thank
you
you.
and you, Fish, and Mike Watson are some of my favorite artists. So I'm love seeing your guys' stuff. So it makes sense why you're so in demand. But
Thank you.
that's that that's a good and a bad thing, I guess. It's good that people like you and people want to use you for stuff, but at the same time, you never have enough time to do your own stuff, and that's got to kind of be a little bit of a bummer because just time is the one thing we don't have enough of ever.
Yeah. And with trying to do this and other people's work and spending time with my own family,
Yeah,
it's just I'm limited in what I can do.
yeah, I get that.
I so and I really want to draw Ruby. It was a goal I had when I first created. I was like, I want to draw this book. I knew I didn't want to draw Saw just because there were aspects of Saw that I knew I couldn't draw well enough for what
Yeah.
I envisioned in my mind.
Hmm.
And with Starcore, there was a style. I've said this before about Starcore that I wanted an animated, like Saturday morning cartoon style
Oh yeah.
look to it.
Okay.
Because I feel like out of all my stories, Starcore could be the one that could translate to a cartoon better
I
than
could see
anything
that.
else.
Yeah.
So when I reached out to Marcos Martinez, the artist for Starcore, I was like, I want you on there because your art style is exactly what I wanted this to look like.
Makes
So
sense.
Ruby is the book though that I want to finish, and I will eventually. It's just I gotta find that time. Like you said, it's limited, but I'm gonna find it eventually.
Yeah. It'll happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's some advice you'd give to other people who want to be creatives or people who, are kind of just too scared to jump in, but have the passion, they just don't know where to start? Like what's some advice you'd give?
Don't compare yourself to others. Everybody else's
That's
journey
good.
is completely different. So don't sit there and say, I can't do this because my art doesn't look like Jim Lee's or my story isn't like Jim Starlin's. Um, do what you can do and improve on that. Keep working at it. Keep, finding things to tweak and to get better, but don't try to compare your work to somebody else's because that's just going to bring you down and deflate you, and it's going to make you not want to do it. And I struggle with that still to this day. I mean, like you said, I look at people like Fishley, I look at people like Michael Watson, and I see what they're putting out there, and I'm like, damn it, why can't I do that? And I have to remind myself they might have been doing this for a little bit longer, or they might have been focusing on that aspect of things a little bit more than I have.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it. But that doesn't mean that I can't eventually if I work at it. So
Yeah.
don't look at what everybody else is doing. And it's hard to say that because we live in a world where we imagery is pushed at us all the time.
Yeah.
You go on Facebook, and Facebook now is, if you don't have an image to your post, it's probably not going to be seen through the algorithm. So
Yep.
you all you see, especially like for you and I, if we have a friend base that are big on comic books, all we see is comic books after comic books of amazing detailed stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who deals or struggles with this idea of I'm not good enough, you're gonna get yourself even more down in the dumps saying, I can't do this because this is all I see.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up over it. Do what you can and then find ways to improve what you're doing, because that's the only thing we can do with what we have is just keep getting better, keep improving on what we have.
And you can't get better if you never start.
Exactly exactly and
That's great
understand that
advice.
if this is your first thing, whatever it is, your first script, your first drawing, your first comic book, it's going to be a piece of crap more than likely.
Yep.
It really is.
Yep.
Unless you're working with someone that they have more experience and they can help you and guide you along that way. If you're doing this all on your own, that first thing, whatever it is, your first podcast, your first acting gig, it's probably not going to be the best thing because it's your first time really doing it. But 5, 10, 12, revolutions, tries, whatever it is down the line, that first one is not going to look like that last one because you've gotten so much better at it.
Yep.
I run a podcast myself, the Four Tales podcast, and I went back and listened to our very first episode with Danny and I. And when I listen to that and I listen to what we do now, it's a completely different podcast.
Yeah.
Our cadences with each other are different. The way we interact with our guests are different, and it's because we grew, we practiced, we got better at it, and now we have this flow. But we're still working on things to make our podcast even better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I've had the same issue with even with this podcast where, you don't want to start until everything's going to be absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
But realistically, if you're always waiting for it to be perfect, you're
it's
never going to start ever.
never
And
will.
and like you said, I've gone back and listened to my first episode of this show, which isn't that far along because this is only the fifth episode of the show. But already there's been a lot of getting better and a lot of progression, and there's still a ton of work to go. I'm not
Yeah,
perfect, but I'm getting better. And like we said, you're not going to get better unless you do it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
great advice.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's give you a chance to plug yourself. Where do people find you?
You can find me at tauruscomics.com. That is my website. You can buy all my books there in physical floppy form or digital form. You can find me on social media on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Taurus Comics. All there for you to like, subscribe, share. I am on YouTube. Um, that's also Taurus Comics, but I don't really post anything there. I don't know why.
That's all right, because
Yeah.
you post stuff in Four Tails, so we just got to go to Four Tails and look for stuff there.
Yeah, you can check out my podcast. It's the Four
Yeah,
Tails Podcast, the number four TALES podcast.com. We do a interview every week. Um, we interview comic creators just like Chris is doing with me right now. And every Saturday, if you want to watch us live, we do it at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to see me with sleep in my eyes and exhausted because my broadcast partner won't change our time, check us out. And we have fun. 2 weeks from now, we're actually going to have Ron Mars on our podcast. So we're going to talk about him and his experience with writing for Marvel Comics and DC Comics and whatever else he's doing right now. So we're gonna have some fun.
that's awesome, and it's a great show. So definitely everyone should check it out.
Thank
You and Danny are great. And yeah, that's super mean of Danny. Man, by the time you guys start recording, it's already almost afternoon for him. Man.
Yeah, and Danny's a busy guy. I mean, he
Yeah.
has a family. He has his own comic book shop in North
Yeah.
Carolina. So I understand it, and I'm okay with it now. It's been 2 years we've been doing it. The first couple of times I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm waking up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning
Yeah.
to try to talk to people. This is ridiculous. But I've gotten so used to it now. It's just when I don't do it, I feel weird.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have a podcast today. I don't know what to do with my time now. I need to
Yeah.
do something. So, but we have a good time. Danny's always jovial. He's always a fun person to listen to. And I'm more the serious person on our podcast. And so we have a good balance there.
That's good. Yeah, Danny's a great guy. I'm gonna have to find a reason to get him on here and talk to him sometime.
Oh, you can talk to him anytime, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, now it's time for me to plug some stuff. We got a couple of partners I want to talk about. W Energy is the first one. W is formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. You can check them out at wdubby.gg and use the code Geek Network for 10% off your order. I'm looking forward to some of myself. I have an order coming, so we'll see. We'll see if it's good. I'm sure it's just as good as they say.
Sounds good.
Also Mammoth Headwear. They make hats for large-headed folks like myself. I got a big old head, so yeah, it's hard to find a hat that fits. And these guys have great hats that it's almost a little bit too big, which has never been a thing for me before. So it's kind of awesome. You can check them out at mammothheadwear.com. You can also use the code Geek Network for 10% off there. We have shirts, tpublic.com/user/geek-network-entertainment. You can get all sorts of shirts from this show and other shows. There's some pretty crazy ones for this show there. So check that out. I think there's a sale going on right now for a couple more days. You can also check our show out and all sorts of other geek related news on our website at geek-network.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at geeksaz and Geek Network on Facebook. I am CD is weird on Instagram. The music for the show is from Polygon Horizon. Check them out on Bandcamp. They're incredible. The logo for Fueled by Weird is by my friend Chris Chandler. You can find him at Chandler Doma on Instagram and Twitter. He's actually also a really great comic book writer. The logo for the show with the cartoon face is by my friend Mike Belcher, another comic book artist who's incredible. You can find him at Mike W Belcher 1 on Twitter and at Mike W_Belcher on Instagram. And if you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Word of mouth is our best friend. So remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird and always geek responsibly. Kyrun, thanks so much for coming today, man.
This was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully I can be on again in the future.
Absolutely.